It's been a minute since we've talked or anything. It's kind of weird, but those of you who have been paying attention, love you, thank you. You might have noticed some things have been happening to the channel. So we're taking this opportunity to relaunch the channel, which has been very exciting. We have basically daily content coming in the form of shorts, as well as relaunching some of your favorite shows, or the shows that you fucking hate. Either way, they're gonna be back. Watch them, don't watch them. I don't know. I don't really care. Or do I? I need the validation. Please watch my stuff. So one of the new things we're going to be launching is a basically sum up of everything I watched in the month. It'll be very short form, kind of off the cuff. Depending on how many movies I watch, it could be anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes. And it'll parallel what's on my letterbox in case you'd rather just follow it over there. Should be fun. So you can expect that the first week of every single month. In addition to that, we will be bringing back Origins of Evil, our true crime podcast, as well as launching a second podcast that will be focused on movies, specifically those in the horror genre. So if you like your spooky bullshit the way I like my spooky bullshit, then you're gonna have a good time. So in terms of short form content, oh yeah, shorts, because you can't fucking do anything on YouTube without doing shorts now. But no, it's fine. We've actually got some fun things we're doing there. We're doing a dual series called Beyond the Album and Beyond the Poster, where we're using generative fill to fill out and expand all of your favorite album covers and posters. It's kind of neat. It's kind of fucking terrifying because artificial intelligence is gonna probably end us all, but it'll be fine. It'll be cool. I'm not too stressed about it. We're also going to be doing quickie reviews, 60 seconds to tell you exactly what the fuck I think about movies, because I'm fairly certain that somebody cares, or maybe you don't. Either way, it's fine. We're also going to be doing some fun shorts on movie trivia, as well as trying to condense the plot of an entire film down to 60 seconds. It's going to be stressful. I'm excited about it. And there will always be little short clips from our podcast to throw in, and the occasional random ass short of me doing whatever dumb bullshit I felt like doing that day. And nothing makes it quite feel like as big a sociopath as filming yourself and talking out loud in public. Even in Manhattan, it's still very weird to be doing this. Now that we have all that housekeeping out of the way, let's get down to what I watched in September of 2023. First up, we have The Babysitter from 2017, directed by Mick G. That's right, one name, Mick G. 3 letters, 2 capital, 1 lowercase. It's kind of obnoxious, but that's what he goes by. I don't know. So this was a first-time watch. This film is rated TVMA. It is 1 hour and 25 minutes long and is only available to stream on Netflix. When Cole stays up past his bedtime, he discovers that his hot babysitter belongs to a satanic cult that will stop at nothing to keep him quiet. This movie stars Judah Lewis and Samara Weaving, and they have great chemistry. It's really fun. I believe that these two would be friends. Really, Judah's holding his own, being how much younger he is than the rest of the cast. He's very likable in this movie, and Samara Weaving is just fantastic. I mean, she's really on her way to being quite the little scream queen in her own right. This movie is highly stylized, like borderline obnoxious style. McG got his start in the industry doing lots of music videos, and that makes a lot of sense when you watch this movie. There are elements of splatstick comedy here. Think Evil Dead 2 or Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive. This movie's quite violent. but it's almost always played for comedic effect. Like it's just very over the top, very goofy. Also, if you pay really close attention, you'll notice that Samara is the niece of a certain Agent Smith. No, I will not use Hugo Weaving's real name. He is Agent Smith, and that is the end of it. All in all, if you're looking for like a very over-the-top, goofy horror movie that does not take itself seriously, give this one a watch. It was enjoyable. 7 out of 10. 2 Evil Eyes from 1990, directed by Dario Argento, who directed the segment The Black Cat, and George A. Romero, who directed the segment The Facts in the Case of Mr. Valdemar. This was a first-time watch. This film is rated R. It is 2 hours long and is available for streaming on Amazon Prime. A duo of Edgar Allan Poe adaptations about a greedy wife's attempt to embezzle her dying husband's fortune and a sleazy reporter's adoption of a strange black cat. So here we have 2 different Poe stories adapted by 2 directors with wildly different styles. The results, well, they're mixed but mostly good. On a conceptual level, I love this movie. I think the idea is a lot of fun, and it really has potential. We just don't get double features like this anymore. Typically, anthology movies are 3 or 4 stories at a minimum, which obviously it limits every story's screen time. But being that this is a double feature, we really get to get good sizable chunks of story for each one. The first tale is The Facts in the Case of Mr. Valdemar, directed by the godfather of zombies, George A. Romero. This segment feels very like by-the-book Poe. It feels like a toned-down segment from Creepshow, another Romero film. There is some fun, spooky imagery and gore here, but it mostly meanders. The ending of the segment really helps saves it, in my opinion. The Black Cat, directed by Dario Argento, is a far bolder adaptation. Italian cinema is fucking bonkers, and Argento is very much putting his grimy giallo flair on Poe's work. Harvey Keitel is giving his all as a sleazy crime scene photographer who fixates on his girlfriend's new black cat. The gore is way dialed up here. It feels borderline exploitative, which is very fun. And it's very contradictory to like Poe's style. Boy, is that clashing nature just very entertaining to see play out. Feels like a looser adaptation than the first segment, which definitely felt more like a one-to-one adaptation of Poe's work. This is easily the more enjoyable of the two, if only for the gore and Keitel's performance. This portion of this movie is nuts. The time travel segment is insanity. Also, there's a life-size puppet. It's incredible. I will not explain upon that any further. You'll know the scene when you get there. It's a little harder to recommend this movie, but ultimately, I do still recommend it. I think there is some joy to be had. There are 2 wildly different takes, so, one of them is bound to work for you. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. We Summon the Darkness from 2019, directed by Mark Myers. This was a first-time watch. The film is rated R. It is 1 hour and 31 minutes, and it is not available streaming anywhere, so you're gonna have to just buy this one. Or maybe not. Stick around and I'll tell you. 3 best friends embark on a road trip to a heavy metal show, where they bond with 3 aspiring musicians and head off to one of the girls' country home for an after-party. I love stories that tackle the Satanic Panic. It is a super intriguing period in American history, and we recently saw Stranger Things make the Satanic Panic a focal point of its last season. I like the time period and nostalgia of the film. I don't feel like it goes hard enough with it. I feel like they could have done more with the time period, but the movie does take an exciting turn at about the 1/3 mark. And the twist, while it was easy to call, is still very entertaining. Alexandra Daddario is doing a great job here. She's playing against type. I also really like Keon Johnson and Austin Swift's performances. They bring some much needed depth and likability to their characters. And yes, that is Taylor Swift's brother. Weird. Johnny Knoxville is a fun bit of stunt casting. Seeing him play a pious, fear-mongering preacher could be very entertaining, but he's just not given much to do here. And I feel like they kind of wasted his talent because, like, the man can act, despite what you might think from Men in Black 2. He can do stuff. Ultimately, this movie, it just kind of falls flat for me. Unless you really love satanic panic stories or are starving for some like 80s metal flair, you can skip this one. It's gonna be a 5 out of 10 for me. Paranorman from 2012, directed by Chris Butler and Sam Fell. This was a rewatch. The film is rated PG-13. It is 1 hour and 32 minutes long. It is available to stream on Prime, Apple TV, provided you have the Stars add-on. A misunderstood boy takes on ghosts, zombies, and grown-ups to save his town from a centuries-old curse. I adore this film. I think it's Laika at their best. Norman and Neil are just such likable characters, and the quality of the stop-go motion, it's masterful. They seamlessly blend it with CGI to create an actual work of art. This film is made by people who just love horror, and you can feel it in every frame. I love this movie because it's a kid's movie that it doesn't talk down to kids. It doesn't pull its punches with its subject matter. It covers really dark stuff, really adult stuff that is irrelevant today as it was when it came out, as it was forever, really. This is an annual Halloween horror movie for me, and it deserves its place on my list. 9 out of 10. Color Out of Space from 2019, directed by Richard Stanley. Yes, that Richard Stanley. First time watch, this film is unrated. It is 1 hour and 51 minutes, and it is available to stream on Shudder and both Apple TV and Prime, provided you have the AMC Plus add-on. A secluded farm is struck by a strange meteorite, which has apocalyptic consequences for the family living there, and possibly the world. This is an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space, with a U in it, because British peoples, apparently. Quick aside about Lovecraft and his legacy. H.P. Lovecraft was a literary genius, but he was also a raging racist. Seriously, take a second and Google what he named his cat. That's a nice fact to bring up at a party. It's something you can't unknow. Both of these things can be true at the same time, and I do believe that you can love the art and hate the artist, but where does that leave us when it comes to adapting his work? Well, this film does something that I love. They cast a person of color to play one of the heroic roles. In the context of this film, their race plays no role, so switching it out doesn't really compromise the story, but it serves as a very funny middle finger to Lovecraft and his problematic views on race. So back to the movie, I love cosmic horror. There aren't enough good ones out there. Think less eldritch and more celestial in nature in terms of this movie, but there is a lot of focus on body horror in here, and honestly more than I would have expected, but it is done to great effect. Nicolas Cage is excellent in this film. He does go full Cage at points, but honestly his performance is pretty subdued for most of the film. Granted, there are a few scenes where it seems like he's doing a Donald Trump impression. I don't know what that's about, but it's Nicolas Coppola. Leave the man alone. He's a legend. The film does a great job of ratcheting up the horror elements. Some truly disturbing things happen in this movie, and it's just not afraid to cross some lines. If you like cosmic or Lovecraftian horror, this one is definitely worth a watch. 7 out of 10. The Neon Demon, 2016, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. This was a first-time watch. The film is rated R, it is 1 hour and 57 minutes long, and it is available to stream on Prime. An aspiring model, Jessie, is new to Los Angeles. However, her beauty and youth, which generate intense fascination and jealousy within the fashion industry, may prove themselves sinister. Think Valley of the Dolls meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This film got like a surrealist, nightmarish quality about it that's very intoxicating. Its gore, grime, and sleaze is juxtaposed perfectly against how gorgeously it's all framed and shot, and that includes the women in the movie. An argument can be made that Nicholas Winding Refn's work post-Drive is all style over substance, and while I disagree with that sentiment, I cannot argue that most of his films are not really accessible to casual viewers. This film undoubtedly has a lot to say about the fashion industry, and the metaphor of cannibalism is a deliberate choice. Parsing out its exact stance can be challenging, but it's worth the effort. The cast is excellent. Elle Fanning plays her role with a level of naivete and mysteriousness that is challenging to balance, but she really does a great job. Christina Hendricks is great in her short scenes. One of the more confusing casting choices, however, is Keanu Reeves. It's not that he isn't good here, he is. It's just that casting him to play a creepy asshole is an odd move. Like, Keanu's an inherently likable dude. Just look at him. I just want to give him a little hug. The movie certainly isn't impenetrable, but its facade of style over substance coupled with its surrealist imagery and stark gore will dissuade many people. Maybe I'm a fanboy, but I liked it. 7 out of 10. Rosemary's Bye-Bye, 1968, directed by Roman Polanski. Ooh, problematic man is problematic. This was a first-time watch. This film is rated approved, which, yeah, I guess rated R. I don't know. IMDb, weird. It is 2 hours and 17 minutes long and is available to stream on Paramount Plus and Prime, provided you have the AMC Plus add-on. A young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging, ornate apartment building on Central Park West, where they find themselves surrounded by peculiar neighbors. So, please don't be mad that this was a first-time watch. I know, I've seen a lot of movies, but even with me seeing over 1,500, there are still some very basic films that I somehow have not gotten around to watching. Your guess is as good as mine, but I did it, and man, really upset that I slept on this as long as it did, because this movie is incredible. I absolutely love the style of this movie. It is shot so well. Mia Farrow is incredible in it. You just get this frustration and this helplessness that she exudes. There's something about this uncomfortable tension between like neighbors that don't appreciate your personal space or boundaries, they just don't respect it. The social contract kicks in of you have to be polite, but you just deeply want to tell this person to get the fuck out of your house so you can hang out, and just everyone taking away this woman's agency. It's really, really great. I know I'm not the first person to say, "Oh, Rosemary's Baby, great fucking movie," but it's a great fucking movie, and you should definitely watch it if you haven't. 9 out of 10. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? 1962, directed by Robert Aldrich. This was a first-time watch. The film is rated Fast, which I guess realistically it'd probably be like a PG-13 now. It is 2 hours and 14 minutes long, and it is not available on any streaming services, so you're gonna have to buy this one if you want to watch it. A former child star torments her paraplegic sister in their decaying Hollywood mansion. So this was a very interesting watch. This movie, when you pop it in, it feels so much older than it actually is. You know, this movie was only made like 6 years before Rosemary's Baby, but it feels like it's 20 years older. Like, it feels like you're watching something from the 40s. And that was obviously a very deliberate choice between the decision to make the film in black and white, and just the way it was shot and framed and the way people are acting. It kind of lulls you into this sense of like security of, oh, this is an older movie, like they're not really gonna do anything shocking. And when some of the more abusive things do start to happen and some lines do get crossed, it relatively speaking it's quite shocking to see. Now, these are not things that are like intense by today's standards, but just making you feel like, oh, like they would never show this in a movie from this time period, and then bam, like you see it. It's really something. Movie's got a great twist. The acting is very great. You know, it's definitely a touch dated, but I ended up enjoying this film a lot more than I expected to. I am going to recommend it. I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. Coraline from 2009, directed by Henry Selick. You know, the guy who directed Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, not goddamn Tim Burton. He didn't direct that movie. Stop saying that. This was a rewatch. This movie is PG. It is 1 hour and 40 minutes long and is available to stream on Max. An adventurous 11-year-old girl finds another world that is strangely an idealized version of her frustrating home. But it has sinister secrets. This is another great stop-go motion children's horror movie. I personally do prefer Paranorman to this. I just find Norman to be a little bit more likable. Coraline's a little bit of a bitch at the beginning of this movie, just like a little bit. But I do appreciate how dark this movie does get and just how weird some of the visuals are. It is a ton of fun. It's got just a tremendous amount of imagination on display here. Highly recommend this. This is absolutely one that you can watch with your kids too, provided they're not pussies. Just shitting on children, that's what you come to this channel for, right? I'm a dad, I'm allowed to say the kids suck. I'm gonna give this movie an 8 out of 10. Show this one to your kids as opposed to showing them like The Color Out of Space or something. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night from 2014, written and directed by Anna Lily Amirpour. This was a first-time watch. This film is not rated. It is 1 hour and 41 minutes long and is not available to stream anywhere. In an Iranian ghost town, Bad City, a place that reeks of death and loneliness, the townspeople are unaware they are being stalked by a lonesome vampire. This was such a cool movie to watch. I really appreciated this film's style. It is funny, like, watching it, I just turned to my wife and I was like, you know what? I don't think they shot this in Iran. This kind of looks like LA. And sure enough, that's where it was shot. But apart from that, I love the choice to go black and white. The costume design on the vampire character, it's such a great melding of that classical vampire look, you know, working in the cape with like a modern Iranian woman's dress aesthetic. It's so cool, and it's a very interesting choice to set this in modern day Iran, but have the protagonist, or the vampire character rather, to be a woman. You know, this movie is very much a tone piece. I wouldn't go into it expecting like a ton of gore or anything like that, because that's just not this kind of movie. I will say though, the soundtrack, absolute banger. Loved that portion of it. It's a very moody film and I would absolutely recommend it. 8 out of 10. Pan's Labyrinth, 2006, written and directed by Guillermo del Toro. This was a first-time watch. I know, Doug, my boy. I'm sorry. I'm a phony. I love you though. This movie's rated R. It is 1 hour and 58 minutes long, and it is not available to stream. In the Falangist Spain of 1944, the bookish young stepdaughter of a sadistic army officer escapes into an eerie but captivating fantasy world. This movie, boy, I am just devastated that I slept on it as long as I did. I always knew that it was a triumph of practical effects and creature design, and that it was just a truly beautiful, disturbing adult fairy tale. But somehow knowing all that still didn't prepare me for how good it was, how beautiful and malevolent and vicious and wondrous it is. This film is truly incredible. It is a singular work of art. The performances all over are magnificent. Doug Jones's performance as the Fawn, it's amazing to act through all of that makeup, the prosthetics, the servos, the animatronics. It's truly amazing. If you have not seen this movie, just go see it, goddammit. Be prepared, because the movie, it is very disturbing. The violence in it is portrayed in a very visceral and uncomfortable way, and how that juxtaposes against like the fantasy elements, it's incredible, and you need to go see it. Pan's Labyrinth is a masterpiece. It is a 10 out of 10. The Cursed from 2021. Written and directed by Sean Ellis. This was a first-time watch. The movie is rated R. It is 1 hour and 51 minutes long, and it is not available to stream anywhere. In rural 19th century France, a mysterious, possibly supernatural menace threatens a small village. John McBride, a pathologist, comes to town to investigate the danger and exorcise some of his own demons in the process. This movie was super interesting. I went into it more or less blind. It was like one of those, like, I'm gonna guess this is a werewolf movie, but not 100% sure what it's gonna be about, where it's gonna go. So some of the good things, I mean, Jesus Christ, the gore in this movie, it's brutal. It's horrific. There are some truly hateful acts of violence that get carried out on people. I really appreciated how much practical effects they worked into this film. Mild spoiler alert warning, but this movie is ultimately a werewolf film. But what I really appreciated about it was they kind of threw away most of the werewolf lore as we know it. And what ends up taking form is it's more of like an infectious disease movie. It's closer to a zombie movie than it is a traditional werewolf movie. And that's just interesting. It's nice because like you get to go into this thing not knowing all the rules. You have to learn things as you go. Boyd Holbrook does a great job in this movie. There are unfortunately one or two pretty out there like plot holes that really damaged the movie for me personally. I also felt that the framing device for the movie wasn't entirely necessary. It kind of provides like a mystery that just doesn't really go anywhere, if that makes any sense. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. Like if you're a gorehound and you just want like an interesting werewolf movie, I would recommend it, but you're not going to get high art here. Still, I would say check it out. It's a solid 6 out of 10. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, directed by Tobe Hooper. This was a rewatch. This movie is rated R. It is 1 hour and 23 minutes long, and it is available to stream on Shudder, as well as Prime and Apple TV with a AMC Plus add-on. 5 friends head out to rural Texas to visit the grave of a grandfather. On the way, they stumble across what appears to be a deserted house, only to discover something sinister within. Something armed with a chainsaw. What is there to say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that has not been said already? Well, if you haven't watched the movie recently, I'm gonna blow your mind with something. This movie is actually really not that violent. There is shockingly little blood in this movie and virtually no gore. Like, it is crazy that this movie gets the reputation it does about being one of the most fucked up violent movies of its time. And like, you watch it and there's just not a lot there. It's mostly implied, and that's really a testament to how effective the film is at conveying violence, you know? There's nothing a movie can show you that's going to be worse than what you make up in your own head. And this movie is truly a testament to that. Would I say it's the scariest movie of all time? No, I'm not gonna say that. But this movie really is just an absolute classic. There's a reason that we're still getting sequels today, almost 50 years after. Now, I might risk a little bit of a controversial opinion here, but I don't feel that the movie like 100% holds up by today's standards. While I do think it is incredible and it is important, I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. Obviously, watch it. It is a really, really good movie. Super Mario Bros. From 1993, directed by Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton. This was a rewatch. This film is PG, and it is 1 hour and 44 minutes long. It ain't available digital like anywhere, period. To buy, nothing, so good luck with that one. It's almost like they're trying to hide that this one exists or something. 2 Brooklyn plumbers, Mario and Luigi, must travel to another dimension to rescue a princess from the evil dictator King Koopa and stop him from taking over the world. So, my daughter really wanted to watch the new Mario movie, but I'm a fucking bastard of a dad. So what I did was I booted up this movie and didn't tell her anything and just kind of hit play on the family movie night. Boy, once it was like live action and it was Bruno from Encanto playing Luigi without a mustache, she was immensely confused and deeply frustrated. But we did power through this movie because this is something I grew up watching, and I remember loving it as a kid because I had no taste. But as an adult, I know this isn't a good movie, but it is one of the most fascinating train wrecks I have ever seen. How do you choose to adapt Mario, the Mario Brothers, and you just get so far off base. Like, they're so afraid of it being fantasy that, like, they took this structure of, you know, the hero gets sent to another world and it's a fantasy world, but they smeared this Blade Runner sci-fi cyberpunk aesthetic on it. And it's just like, why? And they built this whole city block, and it's like, why did you put this much effort into making a cyberpunk gritty version of fucking Mario? And you got a Puerto Rican and a British guy to play two Italians, which is, you know, a little problematic, but honestly, you can make fun of Italians as much as you want. We don't give a shit. It's just so goddamn funny. I love the amount of effort that went into the worst idea ever. From the de-evolution, the Koopas walking around being huge, the way that they tried to one-to-one adapt all these elements from the game, it's just truly insane. And yet, I love it. So this is a weird one. I'm gonna recommend this movie, but more as a case study and less as like something you're gonna enjoy, because this movie is absolutely a 4 out of 10, but I love it. And the Super Mario Bros. Movie from 2023. Directed by Aaron Horvath, Michael Jelinek, and Pierre Ludic. This was a first time watch. This movie is PG. It is 1 hour and 32 minutes and is not yet available on streaming. Brooklyn plumber named Mario travels through the Mushroom Kingdom with a princess named Peach and an anthropomorphic mushroom named Toad to find Mario's brother, Luigi, and save the world from a ruthless, fire-breathing Koopa named Bowser. This is a much better adaptation. They do some important little changes that I appreciate. I like that they kind of updated it a little bit, where instead of saving the princess, they're saving Luigi. That's kind of funny because Luigi's just like an inherently useless character anyway, and Charlie Day just brings so much great humor to that character. As for Chris Pratt's Italian voice, listen, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't when it comes to Mario's voice, because it's like, do you really want to spend an hour and 32 minutes listening to woohoo and like, you know, it's me, Mario? No, you don't. That's gonna get annoying as shit. It is funny because it's like, this is just Chris Pratt doing the slightest Italian something, but ultimately, like, it's fine. It's totally fine. You get past it. The movie does suffer from a couple issues. I feel like it's got a little bit of the Trinity problem where it's like, wow, Peach is just so much better at Mario than everything. And I kind of find that really frustrating and a little patronizing when it's like, you're taking this character who, don't get me wrong, historically not treated great, basically useless. I get that. Very anti-feminist. Totally understand that. But you swing it so far to the other direction where you're terrified to have this character have even a little bit of a flaw, where it's almost like dehumanizing. And then it inadvertently becomes even more sexist, because it's like, if she's so fucking good, why isn't she just the main character of this movie? Like, why is this a competent little plumber guy? I don't know. These are deeper problems for like screenwriting that we need to get into. But all in all, this is part of the renaissance of good video game adaptations. You got the first two Sonic movies, the Last of Us TV show. It's like, oh, we're doing the thing. We've learned to just put in effort, make this look like the actual game, and like, it's all good. Honestly, one of the standout performances is Jack Black bringing some real pathos to Bowser. I love that random song that they just managed to work in that sounds like a B-side from a Tenacious D song, but it's great. I would recommend this. It's great for kids. 6 out of 10. And finally, our last film for the month of September, we have Martin from 1977. Directed by George A. Romero, this was a first-time watch. It is 1 hour and 35 minutes long, and it is not available anywhere digitally, period, so good luck finding a copy of it. A young man who believes himself to be a vampire goes to live with his elderly and hostile cousin in a small Pennsylvanian town where he tries to redeem his blood-craving urges. This is another one of Romero's looser films. Some of his movies, they almost feel like they just shot a bunch of shit and kind of found the movie in editing. That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of a stylistic choice. There are some things, stylistically speaking, that I absolutely love in this movie. This movie plays a lot with the differences between film, or Martin's idealized version of what he's doing and then the reality of what he's doing. And they do this through, they're not like flashbacks, but they're basically like waking hallucinations that Martin has, where they choose to shoot it in black and white. It looks classical, everyone's beautiful, and then it'll just like smash cut to the reality of what he is doing, which is sexually assaulting somebody, holding them against their will, slicing their veins open with a fucking razor blade and drinking their blood. And it's not pretty, it's deeply uncomfortable to watch. Martin is a horrible character, and honestly kind of reminds me of Dexter. Like, I remember looking at the poster for this movie and just getting major Dexter vibes, and there are some weird similarities there. The movie is very loosey-goosey, kind of meanders a little bit, but the elements of violence are deeply uncomfortable and shocking. Tom Savini does some great classical special effects for this movie, and even gets to be in it for a little bit, as does George A. Romero. It's very fun to see both of those guys in there, because it's just like, hey, I know you guys. I met one of you guys. You're cool. Big fans, big fans. This is one of those movies where it's a little tough to recommend, but the final scene in this movie is so abrupt and so shocking and so expertly done that it actually bumped the entire goddamn movie up like a full numerical grade for me. I definitely think that if you can track this down, it's absolutely worth a watch. It is an interesting pairing with Vampire's Kiss, the Nicolas Cage movie, where once again, like, you have a movie where it's like, oh, there's a guy, he thinks he's a vampire, and how does that play out? Super, super interesting. I give this movie an 8 out of 10. And that is it for what I watched in the month of September. I know, it's a lot of horror movies, probably too many horror movies, and that's not gonna get better. That's only gonna get worse. So I hope you're prepared for that. Granted, I personally think the 1993 Mario movie is pretty horrific in its own way. So this is gonna be a new thing that I do at the end of every month, where I'm gonna recap everything I watched. I hope you guys enjoy it, and keep an eye out for what I watched in October, because it's probably gonna be more horror movies. But I'm holding it a Braun. This has been another damn review show, because fuck you, you'll watch it.